Hi, I'm Virginia from Write Clinic, and this is the Medical Writing Uncut podcast. Here with me today is Caroline Ritchie. She is the owner and principal medical writer at Ritchie Scientific Consulting. She's also a medical writing consultant, and she provides education on regulatory medical writing, which I know a lot of you are really interested in. So thank you so much for being here today, Caroline.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to all of your listeners today.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So, what do you do and how did you get into it?
So I am a regulatory medical writing consultant, and basically pharmaceutical companies, sometimes medical device companies, hire me to support their regulatory medical writing needs. So whether that's supporting a major submission like an NDA or a BLA, sometimes just kind of being their support person for writing protocols, protocol amendments, CSRs. I'm kind of that person that you can just throw in, give me a ton of information, and I will dive right into your team and basically help you get your documents done. I would say I kind of fell into regulatory medical writing. I knew it was a thing when I was first looking for writing roles. I think it was like 12, 13 years ago. But I didn't know anything about it. And I was coming straight out of a PhD program and knew kind of my easiest entry into writing was probably kind of the publications route because I had that experience from my PhD program. So I started applying to kind of every open role I found, focusing on kind of those publications types roles. And it was kind of ironic, but my first position ended up being a really unique position, and I didn't even realize it at the time. So in that role, it was at a large medical device company, and I was basically the publications writer. So I was working with publication managers to develop the publication plans and do the manuscripts, abstracts, all of that. But at that company, we also sat on the clinical trial teams. So I was writing the protocols and the clinical study reports or CSRs. And after, a couple of years, I realized I really like the protocols and the CSRs a lot more than I like the manuscripts and the abstracts. So when I decided it was time to kind of start looking for that next position, I said, I want to focus on regulatory. I want to really dive deep and learn more about regulatory writing. So I ended up getting a role at a small kind of mid-sized pharma company doing regulatory writing. And there was really no medical writing group at that company. I was thrown to the wolves, and it was like, all right, you're pretty much the only medical writer and you're going to lead this major submission. And I was like, whoa. So basically crash course within a couple of months, like learning everything there was to know about medical writing, filing an NDA. It was super intense. It was very stressful, but I learned so much in that position. And then I actually decided that I wanted to go independent. I worked with a lot of independent consultants during that time period and just really liked, when they had a little more flexibility in their life. And also just they really got to see a lot of diversity in what they were doing. So not focusing on one therapeutic area, but really working company to company, doing a ton of submissions. And I wanted that. I wanted that experience. I wanted that ability to just learn so much. So I ended up starting my own company and basically went from there, started with one client and have had a ton of clients since then, have done a ton of submission work and just really absolutely love what I do every day.
That is really awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. What a really rich kind of experience that you've had, which sounds
Yeah.
really like to learn more about your experience. So there are a couple of things that you mentioned that I'm not sure the audience is familiar with. So could you please explain what an NDA and a BLA is?
Yeah, so an NDA and a BLA, so a new drug application or a biologics licensing application is basically your application to get your drug approved. So a biologics would be for a biologic entity, whereas a NDA or a new drug application would be more for like a small molecule type therapeutic. But basically the how you prepare all of those documents is the same, whether it's an NDA or a BLA. And also in Europe, we call these MAAs or marketing authorization applications, and also similar because we have what's called like the common technical document or the CTD. We basically file these applications with kind of the same documents in multiple regions. And the number of documents that go into one of these applications is just incredible. Like I had no comprehension of the just type and just scope of information that goes into these applications. It's just massive, and it takes an army of people. Usually you start planning like a year and a half in advance.
Brilliant. So it must be really satisfying when you get that, approval and you actually finally get the new drug or the biologic into market. So it must be a real triumph and celebration.
Yeah, I mean, the first celebration is the second your regulatory team hits submit, but then it's, you might wait 9 months, a year to actually get that approval. And I'll say, I think the biggest highlight is the first time you're watching TV and a commercial for something you helped get approved comes on. It's just like, I did that. And it's really, really satisfying.
That's really awesome. That's really awesome. So, what do you wish that you knew earlier in your career to help you get into regulatory medical writing? Because you said you were coming out of a PhD and you did loads of kind of research into medical writing. So what do you think was kind of when the moment kind of hit you that you knew enough and you just went for it?
I mean, I think regulatory medical writing specifically, I wish I just knew what it really entailed, because I remember when I first started my job search, I'm just looking at very broad terms like science writing, medical writing. And in a lot of companies, medical writing specifically refers to regulatory medical writing, but it's not always the case. So I wish I knew, one, what regulatory medical writing really entailed, to kind of understand if that was kind of the route I wanted to take versus kind of going to publications first, then going to regulatory writing. And also just how to navigate like job postings. Like that was just so complicated. And just even understanding, you see a job posting and like, I think this is regulatory or I think this is publications, but it's, very vague. And some companies, like the one I applied to, kind of almost combine the roles, and others, they're completely different functions within a company. So I think that's a big one. Also, just, like you heard me talk at the beginning, the industry is just alphabet soup. It's just like everything. There's an acronym for everything. So just kind of understanding the lingo, I think would have helped a lot. I mean, I'm like writing abbreviation lists in these documents, and like the abbreviation list is like 5-6 pages long, and just understanding the lingo a little bit better to kind of know what I was looking for, knowing, where to find resources to educate myself and try to, educate myself both before applying for jobs to show that I kind of learned some things, to prepare for interviews, but also early in my career to kind of really get up to speed quickly. I think it's just a challenge because there is so much lingo that people outside of our field are like, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make, because sometimes it can be really inaccessible. And that's why I'm really grateful for you, again, being here to kind of explain these kind of things that people might experience when they first try to get into regulatory medical writing. So it's really great advice. Maybe there's a glossary out there which explains, all of the alphabet soup.
Yeah.
So what would be your kind of top tip for finding clients? Because you went into consultancy and now you've kind of built your own business, which is equally impressive, having worked from independent consultants and now becoming one yourself. So how do you find clients, or do they just come to you because you've got such a fantastic portfolio now?
Yeah. So for me, it definitely helps that I worked in the industry as an employee before going independent, because I've really never had to look for work, which I know I'm like super lucky because of that. It also helps that I live in the Boston area. So, there's, throw a rock and you'll hit a pharma company, as we say up here. So I've met through my like first 2 jobs up here, like I met so many people. And, people job hop around here a lot. Every 2 years, it seems like people move from company to company. So I'll work with someone at one company that I have a really great relationship with. We really like working together. And then they go to another company, and 2 months later, they're emailing me saying, hey, we need medical writing support. So I'm working with 2 people now that it's the third company I've worked for, kind of the same person. So it really is networking and building relationships with people is so important. I do think it's probably harder if you say go independent or freelance without, having that experience at a company, unless you are able to meet people through other avenues, whether it's, I know at least up in Boston, there's a lot of like happy hours for people in pharma and just kind of general kind of meetup things where you can meet people. But I think really if you're struggling to find clients because you haven't worked as an employee before, just getting out there and meeting as many people in your industry as possible, having your business card, just being approachable, can really help you because the relationships are where you get the business.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think we always try to encourage networking as much as possible. And it's interesting to hear that there's happy hour for people in pharma. So it must be a real concentration of people in
Yeah,
the area. So
yeah, yeah.
location is a big advantage, which is really interesting to hear. So what's kind of next on the horizon for you? What are you kind of looking forward to as a consultant, or is there anything that you kind of provide in terms of education for anyone who's interested in learning from you?
Yeah, so basically early this year, 2024, I actually launched my own website where I am offering webinars and online courses in different aspects of regulatory medical writing. So I do have a course on Udemy that's called Regulatory Medical Writing Basics. That's really kind of a foundation for people interested in regulatory medical writing, want to learn a little bit more about it. And that's where you can really start learning some of that lingo in that course. And then on my own website, so if you go to richiescientificconsulting.com, there's a little link for Academy at the top. And that's where I offer some additional webinars, online courses. I just this week launched an online course for writing clinical study reports that I'm really excited about. I took my webinar and kind of beefed it up a little bit. There's a lot of handouts that I provide, and it's a great resource for people that are either brand new to clinical study report writing or have a little bit of experience but want to learn more. I provide a lot of kind of real world examples, obviously not handing out the entire CSR, but saying, hey, I experienced this at one point. Here's how we kind of navigated that or how we handled it within the CSR. So a great course for people interested in learning more about clinical study report writing. And yeah, hoping to just continue building that out. I have a lot of courses that I'm hoping to start working on soon and continuing to grow kind of that side of my business.
Brilliant. Yeah, because I know there are lots of people that are really eager to learn. So thank you so much for sharing all of your experience today. And if you would like to learn more from Caroline, I will leave all of her links in the description box below. And thank you so much for watching or listening, and we'll see you at the next episode. Bye.
Great. Thank you. Bye.